Audio now unmuted. Audio start video.
Just want to turn off your.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't worry now.
Thanks. So.
Cool. The room is unmuted and muted.
Barbara, can you hear us?
Audio now unmuted.
Hello.
Mute my audio. Shift Command A. You are mute my audio.
Hello.
Jenny.
It's Jenny.
Audio mute my audio.
Good to have you, Jenny.
Christopher Ferry has joined the meeting.
I'm actually trying to get this audio to play through headphones and not yak at you guys, because you don't need to hear that.
We can also mute you on our end if it's easier for you.
Yeah. But you don't need to hear my screen reader yak. I do, but you don't.
Totally. That's totally fine, Jenny. Don't worry about it. Kate, would you mind making me a co-host just because I have to
Close.
share some stuff?
Close. You are currently on a button.
Jenny, I just muted you for now, just while you're sorting out the screen reader.
Audio now unmuted. Unlicensed room. Computer audio unmuted. Next page. Grid view. View. Sign in.
I love that we're unlicensed room.
Nothing cheaper than unlicensed.
That's right. Okay, I think we're at quorum. 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. Okay, let's get started. Hi everyone, welcome to our November meeting of the Pedestrian Transit Advisory Committee. I believe Zach is our acting secretary for the night, right, Zach? I saw Zach on screen.
I saw it too. Yeah, he's a panelist.
Yes, perfect. Thank you. Wonderful. Let me just pull my notes. Okay, let's start with roll call with our community representatives. Ted Alexander.
Here.
Jenny Alverson. We know Jenny is here. Meredith Brown. Hey, Melissa. Laura Evans. Christopher Ferry.
Here.
Preston Gutelius.
Here.
Satopo Hirai. Brenda Marvin.
Here.
Steve Mulder.
Here.
Barbara Myers.
Here.
Bianca Norkunis, not with us. Vitor Pamplona.
Here.
Jack Rosenberg, we know you're here, Zach. Alessandra Sider, I am here. Mackenzie Webb. Here. JT Scott is not here from council. Kate White.
Here.
And Justin Schreiber.
Here.
Fantastic. Our guests, I would love for you to introduce yourselves as well. Melissa, we're going to hear from you a lot more, but would love to just hear your name, maybe your ward in Somerville, and what interests you about tonight's agenda, but also what you're talking about tonight.
Right on. Hi all, my name's Melissa DeLay. I'm the Senior Director of Service Planning for the MBTA. I also live in Somerville, Ward 5, so right off of Highland Ave near Cedar and Porter Street. I'm very excited to talk to you about the 8890 data take.
Awesome. Thank you, Melissa.
Hi, I'm Joshua Mitchell. I live here in Ward 2, right by Lincoln Park. I'm here to talk about the walk-on you guys in Union Square because I live in the area and I'm really interested in improvements there.
Awesome. Thank you for being here and for coming on our walk audit. And then I'm just going to read our guests online for Zach, our note taker for the day. Do we need to promote Brian? Is he presenting with you, Kate?
He may be joining a little bit, but yeah, I think we could just listen to him a little bit, but I promoted student option.
Okay, sounds great. So Brian Postlethwaite from engineering is here, Crystal H is here, Cynthia's iPhone is here, and Yushuo Ding is here as well. Thank you all for being at our meeting today. I have a few, October minutes before announcements. Any changes, requested amendments to the October minutes? Oh, great, Laura's here. Thank you, Laura. Seeing no improvements to the October minutes, I motion to approve them. Do I have a second?
This is Vitor, I second the motion.
Thank you, Vitor. All in favor of approving the October minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Just some announcements before we dig in. We are going to reschedule our January meeting to January 22nd instead of the 15th. So please mark that on your calendars. We also are, Mobility just published an open call for new PTAC members, literally like an hour ago. So please share that with anybody that you might think is interested in joining our committee. We are planning on conducting interviews in mid-January. Myself, Brenda, Vitor, and Preston are all gonna collaborate with Mobility on that. Hey, Viola. And our goal is to welcome 2 to 5 new members by end of January 26. And then the last thing is that the officers would love to do a little bit of advocacy just to the new mayoral administration and new city council, just to make clear PTAC's priorities and make them aware of what we're hoping to accomplish over the next year. So we brainstormed a few items that we thought kind of reflected our discussions and priorities over the past year, but I'm gonna send out a survey to all of our members to just validate that and see if you have any other things that you would want to advocate for. So keep an eye out for that coming out over the next few days or so. Please fill it out. On to our subcommittee updates. I don't think we have a lot of subcommittee updates today because community events did not meet since we are in kind of a lull for the moment. We do plan to table at the Winter Farmers Market in either, I think we said January or February, if I remember correctly. And we're going to start mapping out our 2026 engagement schedule soon, but we did not meet this month. And design review didn't either, right? You did? Okay, great. So let's jump into our first kind of big agenda item, which is long-term considerations for bus route 90. So just to recap, this summer the MBTA rerouted bus route 90 from Broadway and Cross Street onto Washington Street. So instead of taking Cross Street through Somerville and then turning onto Broadway, they took it down onto Washington Street to go up to Sullivan Square. PTAC, along with a large number of fellow community members, including students and families in East Somerville, we advocated that the 90 be restored to its previous route to continue serving Cross Street and Broadway, prioritizing the schools and the businesses in that neighborhood. And we also discussed the, in September, after the kind of restoration of that route was made, we discussed the challenges that are still in place for bus route 90, because just by rerouting the bus back onto Cross Street and Broadway, that doesn't make all of the considerations that made the MBTA want to do otherwise go away. So we have been, over the past few months, kind of looking into some of the criteria that was both voiced to us by Mobility and by the T, but also by community members and by our own assessments, and just kind of like weighing different options for the future of the 90. So tonight I am going to present kind of a big spreadsheet with some of the options that we're considering and kind of weigh them against some criteria. And then Melissa is going to present on the T's perspective, and then we'll have a discussion on if there's an option that we want to recommend. We don't necessarily have to like finalize a recommendation tonight, but it would be great to kind of get an indication of the direction that we're moving in. One thing before I start sharing the spreadsheet, which is just a kind of consideration to keep in mind, is that, and that hopefully Melissa can clarify and weigh in on a little bit. Originally, the T had communicated that the goal for the 90, well, a goal for the 90, I should say, is to provide a connection between West Somerville and the Green Line, which is currently offered by the 88 via Leechmere. But we recently got data that about 60% of the riders of the 88 who continue onto the Green Line at Leechmere have a final destination of North Station, which is obviously also connected by the Orange Line. And about 40% of riders of the 88 transfer from Leechmere after starting their trip at North Station. So we're kind of wondering on the committee, rather than specifically ensure another connection between West Somerville and the Green Line, would it be sufficient to provide another connection between West Somerville and the Orange Line? Right now, and in the bus route redesign, the 87 and the 89 kind of fulfill that Green Line connection from West Somerville, and the 89 fulfills that connection from West Somerville and the Orange Line. So that's just kind of like a preamble to one of the sets of criteria that we were using for our analysis. So let me share at this point. Oh yes, you will have to stop, thank you. Okay. So we have, how many options? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 options that are weighed against several sets of criteria. We have scored each of these options for routing of the 90 based on the criteria. So if square is in red, it gets 0 points, green squares get 2 points, yellow squares get 1 point. Yes, we can share the link as well. Thank you, Crystal, for asking. 1 moment, please. Okay, there you go. So there are, just to walk through kind of the 6 options, there are a few factors that we're considering here. One is whether or not to consolidate the 88 and the 90, because kind of the middle of those routes are pretty duplicative, and the 88 is rather duplicative with the Green Line as well. So there's a conversation around consolidating these 2 routes. There's also a conversation of what route the 90 will actually take, whether or not it is consolidated. And then I think those are the big ones, because they all will go to assembly ultimately and start at Clarendon Hill, except for the 90 and the 80 that are currently in place, only one of which starts at Clarendon Hill. So option 1, which is scoring the max number of points under our criteria, is to consolidate the 88 and the 90 and route it via Cross Street and Broadway to assembly. We're weighing this against criteria to see if there's a connection between West Somerville and North Station via the Green Line, via the Orange Line, if there's a connection maintained between Davis and Assembly, if there's a connection between West and Central Somerville and the East Somerville schools, and we're assessing specifically each school in East Somerville. Whether or not there's a connection between Somerville High School and East Somerville, whether there's a connection between Highland and Leechmere, whether there's service retained on Highland, and then in terms of operational efficiencies, whether duplicate routes are eliminated, especially on Highland, whether duplicate routes with the Green Line are eliminated, whether a bus can avoid the operational difficulties that are on Cross Street, whether land purchases are avoided. There's one option that we considered around a busway in Brick Bottom. And then the final criteria is whether a new neighborhood is serviced. Only one of our options fulfills that. But essentially, consolidating the 88 and the 90 and routing it on Cross Street and Broadway scored the most because it does not maintain a connection to the Green Line via West Somerville, but it does with the Orange Line via the 89 and the consolidated 88 and 90. It does maintain connection between Davis and Assembly. It does all the things want to specifically highlight the connections between West Somerville and the schools. It does not maintain connection between Highland and Lechmere, and then it does not avoid the difficulties on Cross Street, and it maintains the same level of service in neighborhoods. The next option, consolidating the 88 and the 90, routing that consolidated bus on McGrath and Broadway. So it would kind of go up McGrath and then turn right on Broadway instead of Cross Street. This would maintain a connection via West Somerville and the Orange Line and Davis to Assembly. It would be a little bit worse of a connection between West and Central Somerville and East Somerville schools because they would be a longer walk from the stops. There would still be service on Highland, and it would improve some of the operational efficiencies. The status quo came in third based on our assessment. It maintains the connection between West Somerville and the Green Line. There's somewhat of a connection between the Orange Line and West Somerville. It does all the other things with the schools and with Highland, but it does not achieve the operational efficiencies that the T is hoping for. Consolidating the 88 and the 90 via Washington Street, which is how the 90 was rerouted this summer briefly, that came in fourth in our analysis. So it has a connection between the Green Line and the Orange Line, but it does not offer a robust connection between West Somerville and Central Somerville and the East Somerville schools. And it does well on operational efficiency. And then the other options, consolidating the 88 and 90, but routing the bus down a busway in Brick Bottom and keeping the 90 and the 88 in place with the 90 on Washington Street. These did not rank high on our criteria, so I won't go into them in detail. The one thing that I missed in the McGrath and Broadway option, consolidating the 88 and the 90, but routing it on McGrath and Broadway, is that there's a question of whether or not that's feasible to implement in the short term, given the construction that is set for McGrath to start in 2027, I believe. So is it worthwhile to route the 90 on McGrath for the next 1.5 years, basically, and then having to reroute it again to restore it or have another conversation around the future from there? Did I miss anything, Vitor? Because you put the spreadsheet together after I set the criteria and everything.
I think it's mostly.
Any questions about these criteria? Yes.
From my understanding, for the consolidated 88 and 90 by McGrath and Broadway, would it go down Highland and then take a left at McGrath and then cross over to Broadway? Okay.
Exactly.
And so, oh right, because 88 goes up. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, beautiful. Then, Melissa, I'm going to pass it over to you to present the T's perspective on the 90.
I have a logistical question. Is there a way I can plug in or get the meeting invite to log in to share a stuff?
Yeah, are you on the Wi-Fi?
I'm on Wi-Fi.
Okay, wonderful. Here, I'll just come, if it's okay, look over your shoulder and get you the link. Or actually, if you're on the Wi-Fi, is your email open? I'll just message you the link.
Yes, if you email it to me.
Let's give us 1 second, folks. Or just if you're a little faster.
So while they're setting up, I think there are 3 main questions in this discussion. I think the first one is consolidate or not. Do we want to have this idea of just one of the lines be supplied, or we have to have green and orange lines connected? Washington Cross or McGrath, I think the 3 are options, and they can essentially work with any other plan, so we can switch them around. And the other one is how to connect to the green line if we want to, either through Lechmere or through East Somerville. There was an idea from the spreadsheet through Ball Square. So those are like, can we do something better, for instance, on East Somerville to connect it in a nicer way, or in a similar way that says Lishmere is right now. Is that even worth considering? Like those are the questions for us to debate.
I'll also point out that southbound on McGrath is not like at all possible right now because there's no sidewalk on it. That's like a connected median.
So it would have to be post-construction.
Yeah, or like some combination of north on McGrath, south on Cross.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's possible to pour concrete, but it's a question like when Mass said that ahead of 2 years away from the building corridor. That doesn't seems like it would be a heavy lift.
Yeah. Thank you, Justin.
Do I need permissions to share?
You
my
should be all
screen?
set. I just made you a copy. Yeah. But let me know if you have any issue.
So that was a panelist? Is that the
Oh
right?
yeah, I think I just switched it now, so you should be all set.
Okay, phew. So I'll go very quickly through some of these slides. Some of them should be very familiar, so I won't spend a ton of time on these. But today we have the Route 88, which operates from Clarendon Hill to Lechmere. It's pretty good frequency as our routes go. So it's mostly every 20 to 30 minutes for the full transit day. We do have some pain points on our side is that, since GLX opened, Lechmere ridership's down about 29%. And you can see there's a lot of overlap at the southern portion of the route with the GLX corridor, but we still do see about, 380 on-drops at Lechmere. And we do see that most of those folks are coming from either kind of Clarendon Hill, Teal Square, Davis, or even Highland Ave up to like Cherry Street and Cedar Street, where there's just, it's a longer walk to get to the GLX corridor from those parts of Somerville. So you still do see people fitting in to Lechmere. And there is some just general duplication with GLX corridor directly kind of between the Target area and Lechmere. We also have the Route 90. This one is a very different route than the 88. It's the unicorn route that if you want to take it, it's the one that doesn't come frequently enough. Often it's every 40 to 70 minutes. It operates for a pretty full span of service on weekdays. Saturdays, it ends at around 11 p.m. and Sundays, it's a very limited span. It's only 10:30 till 7 p.m.-ish on Sundays. So every 40 to 70 minutes, it's about a third of the ridership compared to the 88. The overall ridership patterns, similar to the 88, its kind of busiest stops are Davis and the kind of rail connections. And in contrast, where the 88 was kind of a red line connection and green line connection and serving Highland Ave, this is a red line connection and orange line connection. So there's two kind of competing services on Highland Ave. One is sort of green line focused and one is orange line focused. But one of the pain points that I hear very, very often, if I go to the neighborhood cookout or anything like that, I wish the 90 were more frequent. I wish the trip time was closer to my school start and end time. That one, when my kid was going to the Capuano for a couple of years, it would be like, you'd hope to catch the 90, but you'd usually take the 88 and then walk because the times just didn't line up. And when you have, that's mostly related to the frequency being lower. It's much harder to line it up when there's many different people who are taking different trips on the 90 and we can't line it up for this one school here, but then it's a different school there. If it's just inherently infrequent, it's hard to align with many different things all at once. So kind of the way to address that, I think, is like, how do we get the frequency better is the big question. Or some of the other pain points we hear, I can get to assembly, but like I can't watch a movie and come home afterwards, or I can't grab dinner. If the service is ending so early in the evening, with that very, very limited span. And there's some sort of, I don't want to call it parochialism, but why is it so hard to get to Assembly from Somerville when it's so easy to get there from like Medford and Boston and Charlestown and other neighborhoods? It's in Somerville, but it's just not well integrated with the existing transit services that we do have. And then this one is more on the operations side, but Cross Street, it's very narrow. That width is challenging for our buses and for other large vehicles. And we have kind of crash history that can show it's like 3 times more likely to have crashes than some of the other roads in the nearby area, Washington Street, for example, where we also operate lots of bus service. So with that, the proposal that we originally had in our bus network redesign was to say, trying to look at the resources that we had, can we get rid of some of these inefficiencies, but also address some of the pain points? Like what if we had one route that had the red line connection and the orange line connection, and we would still get you to the green line, though not at Leechmere, and had one route that would do all those things with the full span of service and with better frequency, and strengthen that connection from Somerville to Assembly so that you could, get home from a movie on Sunday nights at 10 o'clock too, and not just things that are earlier in the day. So this was our initial plan that we put into the bus network redesign. At this point, that was about, 4 years ago. We've been working on implementation since then, and we've been working on hiring bus operators. That was a sticking point for a while, but we've hired many hundreds of bus operators over the past few years, and now we're working on implementation. As we were moving forward, we wanted to address one of the other things that had come up during our outreach phase. So going back to those public meetings we had in the May of 2020, the years are a little blur, 21 or 22-ish time period. And then even we had another round of meetings in the fall of that same year. Some of the questions we'd heard from some of our residents were, how am I going to connect to the green line? That's mighty steep. Now that, when we made this plan, it was before the green line was open and operating. So we hadn't kind of seen like, what does that connection feel like to walk from Highland Ave to some of the other locations. So we said, oh yeah, that's like a 40-foot grade difference from Highland Ave down to the Gilman station. They're right on the other side of Reeves Field. And it's like a 10% grade, which when we were doing our bus network redesign, one of our kind of goals was to keep we called it busable streets. We wanted to keep the grades that buses drive on under 6%, because beyond that, it becomes very slippery in snowy conditions. We have to do what we call snow routes, where we just like stop using those roads when the snow comes down until it gets the all clear. And based on that, we were saying, how can we have people walk up a 6% grade if we wouldn't have the bus do that? Maybe in fair weather, it's reasonable. Depending, there's a spectrum of different folks, kind of mobility levels and kind of abilities, but some folks that might be a challenging thing to do on a good day. Others that might be a challenging thing to do if there's ice and snow on the ground. So this is one that gave us pause. And the reason that this is important for us is, as I mentioned, one of those top 3 ridership stops that we have today is Leechmere Station, with like 300 people, 380 people making that trip. If we were replacing it with something that is inherently inaccessible, we feel like that's not the sort of replacement that we wanted to make. So we had come up with another alternate version of a combination plan, and it sort of, the timing didn't work out, but this is what was kind of previewed with the version of the 90 that operated over the summer. I say you kind of got all the stick and none of the carrot. So it was a preview of what the 90 future route might look like, except we didn't have the extension to Clarendon because we weren't doing the combination with the 80. And this was related to the desire to kind of keep the connectivity that we'd had at East Somerville, and I know they were starting construction on Tough Street. That was kind of what caused us to do this reroute over the summer, but there was a lot of pushback that we had heard, especially from the schools. But I wanted to kind of, aside from the summer changes, take a step back and say, like, what are we looking to do with the combination plan? So this would provide a new Green Line connection at East Somerville rather than Gilman. We have the newly constructed floating bus stop islands there on Washington Street with the RRFB. Someone remind me what that stands for. It's a rapid something flashing beacon.
Rapid rectangular.
Rectangular, that's the one. I always forget the rectangular. And there's a pretty handsome floating bus stop, if I do say so myself. And it's a few hundred feet from the lollipop signs at the end of Washington Street near East Somerville Station, though because of the layout of the station, you do have to walk up an incline ramp with, I'm not sure what the grade is, maybe 2 or 3%-ish to get to East Somerville Station itself. That's the primary access to East Somerville Station. So if you've used that station, you've made that connection. So it's not as ideal as Lechmere, but that is one that, like, we could with a straight face say is an accessible connection. And there's some other kind of a happy accident is that this actually maintains direct Sullivan Square connection for Highland Avenue, which Highland Ave does have today. That, I'll flip back a page, wasn't in our 2 pages. That wasn't in our preliminary proposal. We had an Orange Line connection only at Assembly, but that's sort of a happy accident of the Washington Street is if you're going up Washington, you might as well connect at Sullivan. And that gets you a few more bus connections, and it's a faster connection to the Orange Line if you're just looking to continue like into downtown Boston. And then one of the other...
It would continue to Assembly, right?
It would still continue to Assembly, but to get from Washington to Assembly, you might as well serve.
Sure.
Yeah. And one of the other things that we had also heard is that there's just a lot more desire to keep the 88 nomenclature, like the name of the route should be 88. We had called it 90 in our bus network redesign planning. So one of the things that we'd heard is that both more people are using the 88 today and have positive feelings about the route, and the 90 is the route that like broke their heart. So it doesn't have the same kind of warm fuzzy connotations and the same just numerically the number of kind of constituents. And then also there's sort of some good fortune connotations in sort of Asian cultures. So with the whole combination of those things, that's one other piece that we're considering as our future implementation. We want to keep the 88 brand rather than the 90, but that's orthogonal to the route. And then I just want to clarify the updated service hours model. So what we're looking to do is take the hours that are on the bus service hours. So if you imagine like how many hours of bus operators are there driving around on all the 88s if you add them all together, and then all the 90s if you add those together. And because the overall bus network redesign package, our vision is to have 25% more service hours than we had when we kind of benchmarked in 2019. And it's about a 21% increase just on the 90, 88, 90 combination on weekdays, about a 53% increase on Saturdays, and Sundays, it's 133%. So that's a combination. Some of that goes into frequency, some of that goes into longer routes, take more resources to operate. So it's a combination of those different things together, coupled with kind of reinvesting the savings from lopping off the Lechmere piece or lopping off the Twin City Plaza portion or others. So that works out to be about 5 new bus operators overall and about a third more service if you kind of look at the week blended, because there's 5 weekdays and 1 Saturday and 1 Sunday. By the way, our hiring has finally been good and we've been able to start implementing it. It took us a few years. Our phase 1 didn't happen until winter, kind of about a year ago now. And now we've got our new higher starting pay rate for bus operators, and our training school has classes of like 100 people each. So we're kind of ramping up and eager to start kind of investing into more service, like potentially this in the coming years. So with that, those are the main things. Though I wanted to kind of make one comment. The transfer data at Leechmere is not good. So I don't know what exactly had been shared, but we have something called the ODX system, which is looking at the Charlie taps, and it's making certain inferences. Now, we don't have a tap-in, tap-out system like you might see in other properties, but we do have, if you're tapping onto the bus, and then your next interaction is you tap onto a green line or you tap onto a subway fare gate. We're able to link those trips together. The issue with Leechmere is that our fare interaction rate on the green line is very low compared to what you might see like at most gated subway stations. So if you walked into, Porter or Davis or at many of our heavy rail stations, the interaction rate is 90+%. It's pretty good. And so you're able to infer taps that I would say are pretty reliable. On the green line surface, when you don't have fare gates, it's like 30%. If you're lucky, maybe it's gone up because we do have our fare engagement team that's been having more of a presence, and that's helped with the fare interaction rate. But one of the things that when I was looking at the data from OPMI, they were like, well, you have somewhere between 35% and 100% of your riders at Leechmere might be, like, it was a huge spread who might be transferring to the green line. And it was somewhere between 10% and 100% who might be traveling locally. But you really didn't know because the uncertainty was so large. And that's just a function of the very low fare interaction. We just don't really have good data on how many people are traveling locally, because there's a lot of folks who could be going to like the Cambridge Side Galleria or to some of the employment areas there. They could be transferring to Easy Ride. There's a lot of things that people might be doing, and we just don't really have solid data. So I don't want to make it seem like 60% of the people, or I forget the exact number, that everyone's going to North Station, but there could be a sizable number of people staying locally. We just don't really have great precision on that data. So with that, I'm here for ask me questions. I know you have your spreadsheet that you've been working on. And if you have questions, feel free, but I wanted to get that out there.
Awesome. Thank you, Melissa. Super helpful. I have a few questions to start, and then folks should feel free to jump in. One is there a specific place in West or Central Somerville that you're hoping to link to the Green Line, or is it just generally like that whole area of the city you're hoping to make a direct bus connection to the Green Line?
Pretty much it's that there's 380 people who are using that connection today, and some of them might be agnostic and might be traveling downtown Boston and they could take another way, but I think some of them are actually going to Leechmere. And like the goal of this was to say, we're okay saying that sometimes with bus network redesign, we might ask some people to transfer. We'd like to say that we're asking them to transfer only one time to recreate the trip. We're trying not to make lots of people transfer like 1 or 2 times, or we were trying not to, especially for these large volumes. Sometimes if there's very small volumes, that might be something that we would be kind of willing to say, for the greater good, we're not going to serve this connection, but we're going to serve this other one that's used by many more people. But this one was just 380. It was one of the top 3 destinations on the route, and we want to replace it. And we want to replace it accessibly, not like just for some people and not for others. So that's why the grade became something that was really something that we took very seriously.
Yeah.
Now I know it's a longer walk. It's a little less convenient, but we think that it would work for many, many people, and even many people with different types of mobility would be able to use that function.
Gotcha. I guess my question is it insufficient for the 89 to like go from Davis to Ball Square and then have that be the Green Line connection to get you to Leachmere, or is there something not right with that connection?
Yeah, well, that helps some people. So at Davis, that could work. I don't know that would help with Holland Street because we're planning for the future 89 to only go Davis. It wouldn't go Clarendon Hill to Davis to Ball Square. So that only gets you your at Davis itself. And it's not getting you the sort of like Cherry Street and Willow Street and kind of your I'll call it, I don't know if this is lower Highland Ave. You're not getting, so we're just trying to recreate as many of the existing Green Line trips as possible. And this is the way that we were trying to do it.
I guess my other question, and then other folks can jump in, is like whether if the consolidated 8890 were to remain on Cross Street, like is that where today the delays are happening, or is it just that it's really difficult to bus on that corridor? Like are the operators facing difficulties and it faces delays on Cross Street, or just operators are facing difficulties?
There's a lot of delays everywhere. I'll preface it with that.
Yep.
I don't know that not being on Cross Street is the silver bullet, but there's definitely, the crash rate is higher. It's just very narrow. If you're looking at how wide a bus is and how wide we have available for moving traffic there. So I think that's the biggest concern.
And is there anything that the city could do to make that street more busable?
Certainly one of the things I'd heard is that if they're putting in cycling infrastructure at some point, like can you blow out an entire lane of parking on all of Cross Street? Like if there's something big, that might help. But that doesn't necessarily help with the Green Line connection, because one of the other things is Cross Street is funny. It doesn't connect to McGrath symmetrically. You can only turn right. So it's like you can get there in one direction, but you can't provide a Green Line connection in the other direction. So like people can't get home from the Green Line. And it's important for us to have a Green Line connection that works in both directions and not just one.
Others, please jump in.
If I can ask, so for the Cherry and Willow people getting to the Green Line's part of the concern, if I recall correctly, the 87 is already relatively frequent, and then the line that's replacing it will just go to Union Square, will be one of the like high frequency routes. So couldn't they just shift a little bit south if they're on the southern side to take the 87 to Union Square? Then if they're on the northern side, they'll just go to Ball instead. And that kind of solves it, especially if it's a high frequency route, it'll be even more reliable.
So it wouldn't be on Highland Ave directly, but we would sort of send people one way to Somerville Ave or one way to Broadway and kind of leave a gap. But
because it is a short enough walk, I feel like, and it's relatively flat on that section.
Sure is a little hilly.
Little bit.
I still live there.
It's no Central Street.
Very true.
So do you know when you are combining the buses if you are combining all of their trips, or is just one of the operators who are going to a different route? Like, are we getting something closer to a high frequency route?
Yeah, so the goal is, maybe I skipped over this. The goal is that we would have service that is every 20 minutes for most of the day, 7 days a week from 6 a.m. till 10 p.m., which is, I'll call that almost frequent. So our frequency standard is to be a frequent bus route. It's every 15 minutes or better for most of the day. And we were running the numbers and we didn't have the kind of resources within our 25% more than where we were in 2019 to have this be a full frequent route, but we could get it 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. every 20 minutes or better, and sometimes that could be like 15 to 20 minutes. And then earlier, before that, the sort of early morning service could be every like 30 minutes, or after 10 until after midnight, it would be about every 30-ish. It would have, but it would be kind of full span of service, which the 90 very much is not today. And this would be huge because trying to connect to the Orange Line is very challenging from Highland Avenue. It's very low frequency. It's not so bad from the Clarendon Hill end where you have the 89 and you have other options. But from kind of that Highland Ave spine, the Orange Line connectivity is not great on the 90 today. So this gets not just the assembly connection, which I have to go to Trader Joe's and bring my purchases home on the bus, or watch that movie, or let my kid come home from soccer practice at Capilano School. She still has practice there as of a couple weeks ago. Anyway, season's over. So it would be great to have that be an option in evenings and weekends and other times of day when it's just not usable or non-existent today.
And from this map, in this particular case, there is no connection at Sullivan, right?
This was the original proposal, and we had proposed not having the connection at Sullivan. It just kind of adds time, and there's a trade-off of, do you add time, and it's also a spur. It's an added travel that you're like going out and back. So we were kind of trading off the directness of the trip to assembly versus the time of that spur. And so in the original proposal, we had no Sullivan, but in the revised one via Washington, we are showing via Sullivan.
So yeah, I think that's the question: is how important is Sullivan if assembly is served?
Here,
do we need to do up by there, or is just redundant, and we're just shifting things around?
My perspective, like as a potential user, it would be faster because most people on the Orange Line probabilistically are going south if they're coming from Somerville, just because there's more Boston and more things to get to. So their overall journey time would be shorter to keep the Sullivan connection. But here I'll call it was more opportunistic because preserving the Green Line connection, it was already putting the bus onto Washington Street. So if you're at Washington, then it's like no big deal to stop at Sullivan.
Right. It's probably faster to go through the busway than to try to go around
Then
the
the
circle.
rotary can be
You're basically there.
a parking lot.
Yeah.
I do want to flag that we're technically at the end of our agenda item. So if folks, but I don't want to like rush us forward. So if folks still have questions, just please don't keep your hand down until the very last minute. Melissa, I'm curious, like, is there an urgency to shifting the 90 or the consolidated 8890 to Washington Street? Because I think the big concern that we heard from community members, and Ability, correct me if I'm wrong here, is like, especially for families who have to go to Edgerly from West or Central Somerville right now, displaced from Winter Hill, it's already really difficult for them to get to East Somerville. And so taking away bus service felt like another like difficulty in like many years worth of difficulties. And so I'm wondering, like, would it be reasonable to like consolidate the 8890, keep the bus running on Cross Street and Broadway until like the new school can be opened, and then shift for kind of the Green Line connection, the operational efficiencies that you're hoping to provide? Or is that not kind of in the T's perspective?
Well, the main thing for us is doing the consolidation. We want to, because Leechmere is a hugely important stop, we want to replace a Green Line connection that we can say with a straight face is accessible and usable. And the Gilman Station just was not a location where we could do that.
Yeah.
But East Somerville was one that we could. And at East Somerville, we can't get to Cross Street without using Tough Street, and that's no longer something that we think makes sense to do because of other things. There's also kind of the history is that the outreach for the Somerville Bicycle Network Plan was kind of happening at the same time as our outreach for the bus network redesign, and we went to your meetings and you came to our meetings, but like some of the other planning after the fact, where we're starting to say, well, if Gilman's not going to work, and we can come up with this thing, and we can use Tough Street, but like that was happening kind of after the planning. So that by kind of losing Tough Street to the neighborway construction that's already pretty much started, as I understand, that limited some of the options available to us. So it's just, we can't have the East Somerville connection and get to Cross Street without having Tough Street. And that's, as I understand, like that ship has sailed.
Wasn't Tough Street was, where would you have had the bus stop?
It wasn't as great either. It was doing what we currently do, which are, no, what we until last June had done. And people were like, why do you have the bus do this thing? But we had the connection, which is not a great connection. It was on McGrath, around the corner, I call it, at Alston Street.
Yep.
So you have to cross like 8 lanes of McGrath plus what's Joy Street, and it's a very unpleasant crossing, but it was theoretically possible, and it was signalized at least. Well, most of it except for crossing Joy Street, which is unsignalized. But and it was a bit longer than the proposed connection that we have here. So it was a little less legible because you don't have the line of sight to the T lollipop sign. It makes it feel like you're at the station, even if you still have to walk up the ramp. But on McGrath, it's kind of down the street and around the corner and across. So it's a little less legible, but it was theoretically possible. So that's what it would have been with Tough Street.
Yeah, Tim.
It looks like the updated plan doesn't include the loop at Assembly that goes right to the T. Is there a reason for that? It's like
Yeah. Oh, that's another thing. So independent of this, when we were doing this, the turns are too tight for our buses to go onto Great River Road. And we tried Foley Street, and we tried the next one over, Revolution Drive, I think it is, and we were gonna go kind of all the way to the end and turn opposite the ramen shop to get to where Great River Road, I think, continues. And those turns are just not made for large vehicles. So we would do what the 90 does today and kind of go around that roundabout. We might move the layover from one side of the street or to the other side of the street. That's a little bit, it would pretty much have to stay on Grand Union Boulevard and not pull in, which isn't ideal. If we could go back in time to when Assembly Station was being built and some of those roads were being laid out, perhaps we might have done something different.
Yeah, I think the ridership might be better if people saw the bus going, passing through Assembly regularly on those streets instead of kind of like being on the edge. But thanks for that.
Okay, I want to make sure that we are able to have a robust enough discussion on the walk audit, which you guys have been preparing so hard for, so thank you. So Melissa, thank you so much for being here tonight. Really, really useful. I guess what is there a timeline that you're hoping for our recommendations on this route on?
So if we were to get kind of enthusiasm and excitement, that would help influence our decision we're in implementation phase right now. We're about 29% by hours through implementing our bus network redesign vision. There's some that we might not ever implement if we're continuing to hear pushback in some areas, and there's other areas that are folks are kind of knocking on our doors asking when we're going to get to their routes. So that there are other places that we could invest our resources. So this is more of a vibe check.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't possibly implement sooner than like spring of 26 would be extremely aggressive and probably not likely. But if there were enthusiasm and letters of support and like not a lot of pushback, then it could be, 26 or 2027 could be a realistic implementation. And if the direction is like, no, keep status quo, that's what we're here to kind of understand is we don't want to force things that people don't want.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll say, I really want this one as not wearing my T hat, but as my Highland Ave resident, this would be awesome.
Okay, great. Then we will figure out a process for actually coming to a decision. I think we were very close, guys. So thank you for hanging in there with these many discussions on the 19th. Thank you again, Melissa. Let's move to our discussion on the walk audit.
Politely take your leave.
Yes, thank you. So just as a reminder, we hosted a big walk audit in Union Square back in April of this year. We co-hosted it with Somerville Alliance for Safe Streets, Commission for Persons with Disabilities, Groundwork Somerville, and Union Square Main Streets. We had about 60 people, including some elected officials, great turnout. We released a report in August with several recommendations, 25 short-term recommendations, 11 long-term recommendations. And since the report's release, both mobility and engineering have been working to respond to our specific recommendations. So I hope everybody's had a chance to review the memo that mobility sent out earlier this week. I'm going to hand it to Viola to take it from here. Thank you.
I think most people know me, Viola Osteen. I'm a colleague of Kate's and Justin's Mobility Division. And first we want to say a huge thank you to all the efforts and the work you put in hosting all these different groups, collaborating, and then also giving us a report where you came to a consent and were able to give us the short-term and long-term recommendations. We know how hard that is to get to that, and we appreciate it. We wasn't only engineering and mobility, but we had internal meetings and conversations and collaborated with public space and urban forestry, since there were some questions about the plaza. And we also reined in DPW, since obviously they have to maintain, and there were some questions on like the tree pits and that. So we did, we hope we put enough effort in to honor all your work. And I hope it wasn't too frustrating to look at. It's like, nope, we cannot do it. We don't recommend it. This is not because we just briefed and glanced over it and said no. We did have internal discussions, and and I hope that was satisfying enough. I know it's not desired by none of us. And that said, there's a lot of reference, obviously, to the Union Square Plaza and Streetscape project. And so we added the slide just for context and a little bit of background. So in 2021 and 2020, between 2021 and 23, we started this huge project, obviously a huge project area, and we got to 25%. That is all online and published, and you see the link there. And the 25% design package includes technical drawings, but also a preliminary cost estimate. Now, we all know the world changed a lot, so we're trying to adjust the cost estimate as every year goes by. And then also, because we referenced that a lot, the different phasing. So this was our initial thought on the phasing. Phase 1, which is the Prospect Street, Webster, Newton, and right now it shows also going around on Washington Street a little bit. So that we envisioned to do first, and one of the thoughts was because there's a lot of development that is already happening and is about to happen around it, and it's also where we prioritize the bus on Prospect Street, which with all the bus network redesign is important. And then we did put on the slide like the ABC. This is like development that is B and C is like housing developments that are happening right around there. And then one big thing is A, which is the Webster Street reconstruction. So that is a DOT project that we have been collaborating as much as we can with DOT. And that's sort of a little bit of a background. And I'm happy to answer questions on that, and then also open it up to questions on the rest of the presentation.
Great. Thank you, Nola. Okay, I have a few just comments on the response that you prepared. And maybe just to highlight, like, if folks didn't have a chance to review the slides. One, I'm really happy, I know we've talked before, but just happy to see it affirmed that transit signal priority is planned to come to Union Square. Do we have a timeline on that at all?
You mean the phasing of this, or the
TSP.
transit, the TSP?
Yeah.
Just so that.
Hopefully in 2026.
Great.
Yeah, I think it's not confirmed, but I think we'll at least be publishing more details about it this year. Still working through the design.
Also, very happy that the city is considering flexi-pave over the trees. We're tripping all over those. And also, I'm happy to see that the city is investigating a signal activation button in the middle of the crosswalk at Somerville Lab in front of the plaza. And also, one thing that I didn't realize that I'm happy to learn is that DPW will replace the broken plastic tactile pads with metal if we submit 301 requests. So just be aware of that and submit them. Just a few questions before opening it up to others, but if the design for phase 1 is expected to start next year, do we have an expected timeline for construction?
If everything goes well, I'd say 2028.
Oh.
But we have to figure out funding for the construction. And that is going to be one of our main. Could push it further.
Got it. Okay, great. And then for Somerville Avenue Prospect Street, so the report or the recommendation, the responses to the recommendations said that at that intersection, we couldn't do an all-head phase for traffic flow reasons. And it mentioned that there were going to be some signal improvements to ensure that you weren't waiting longer than 2 minutes. Right now it's up to 3 minutes. Are there examples of other intersections in Somerville where pedestrians can wait for up to 2 minutes, just so I can get a sense of like comparison?
Probably Davis Square. That's like it's generally our upper limit. Less is definitely better. Like 90 seconds, I think is, if we can get it, it's great. 122 minutes is the upper. I don't know for certain. I mean, Davis is probably up there. I'm trying to think of another one, another city-owned intersection. Not coming up with one right now. But there are a couple, and there's definitely state-owned that are 2 minutes.
Just two more questions. One, so I think that same response clarified that the city does not design pedestrian crossing times for diagonal crossings. Just curious that thought process.
Actually, try to make sure I know the answer, and it's not entirely, it's not totally clear cut. But if you think of, if we're designing for slowest person, and then diagonal will add to the pedestrian time, which then adds to the overall cycle time. So it's this fine tuning, and yes, then it means you have to walk longer, but it gives everybody a chance to walk across and still keep the cycle at the 2 minute maximum potential.
Last question. At the Webster Ave intersection, there was a line in the responses that said something about like, we'll work with Mass DOT to see if there are ways to put more like human scale, like green, kind of pedestrian friendly barriers at that intersection. But I think it said something like there might be a metal guardrail, like if Mass DOT determines that it's needed for any reason. So I'm just curious, like the criteria that would go into them deciding that one is needed.
It's their safety criteria so that nobody can like just drive into the railroad. And
Into the railroad specifically.
yes, that's my understanding. And so the railroad, the guardrails that are on the west side on Webster Street coming towards Crossway, they will be gone. And then obviously the bridge will look completely different. And if I recall it correctly, on the, what we call the Little Newton side, the southeast corner,
Towards Union.
towards Union, yeah, thank you. I'm pretty sure there will be a guardrail there. And that is what the comment was like, if there's a guardrail, we're trying to have it be pushed as far back as possible. It's a little bit like the ball square, that guardrail that is there, that was supposed to be right at the sidewalk. And so we tried to make it so that there's an option to have greenery in front of it. So that's what we sort of meant with mitigating when there is that. And also like with the railings are on the bridge, we're at least commenting on it and trying to not make it just like lovely chain link.
Other questions, comments?
One thing that happened since the walk audit, so I live right at Webster Newton, and there was actually a pedestrian hit at that intersection a few weeks back, and it was at night in the rain. And as I've kind of reviewed that intersection, I've noticed that some of the lights are much brighter than some of the other ones. So the ones on the south side of Webster are actually significantly brighter than the ones on the north side. And so I could see how it would be very easy for a car to miss a pedestrian because those lights are so much weaker at night than the ones on the other side. And this is at Webster Newton. And I think the city might want to review other places where that might happen. That's just one I know of because it's next to where I live.
So you're just walk auditing all the time now.
I mean, I already did. That's why I participated, but.
So thank you for these responses. It's really, I appreciate all the time that went into considering our recommendations. There were just a couple points that I wanted to push back on a little bit. And the two that were kind of jumping out to me are the Bow Street and the Warren Avenue intersection, where there's like the stop sign on one side and a traffic light on the other. And the response said that this would just, we recommended just replacing it with an all-way stop sign. And the response said this would likely have significant impacts to all street users and would need more extensive evaluation. And I'm just kind of wondering why that couldn't be given a try, like just throw a bag on the light and put a stop sign, temporary stop sign, have a police officer there for a little bit to make people aware there's a change or something and kind of see what happens. I know it's probably not that easy, but it just seemed like that is a place where I've seen a lot of confusion of drivers and pedestrians, and just like I can't think of anywhere else where I've seen a stop sign and traffic light combination like that, and it's just a weird place. I don't know how dangerous it is if the data to show that, but it seems like something that could be addressed with some kind of experiment. And so I just wonder if you had a reaction to that.
Yeah, I think our response, and there's this one and then the other one about the traffic light, can you like separate the two signals on Somerville and Bowen Warren? And it's a pretty complicated intersection for every reasons that you said, but also combining the flow of pedestrians and traffic. And we've seen like that little change, not little change, but a change that we made on Somerville Ave traffic signals, and you guys know more about it than I do.
The left turn on red.
It was
no, it's
prior.
like the,
Earlier in 2025, we adjusted signal timing by approximately 6 seconds, and it resulted in queues on Somerville Ave all the way back to Carlton for significant chunks of the day. And that was just an adjustment of a few seconds. So I think that was.
Yeah, so that is one aspect. And then to create a four-way stop, and again, you might support me or not and say we, there were so many discussions we had, so I'm trying to keep it straight. But it's also that we're trying to be consistent. And there are warranties, there are engineering warranties that have to be made when you change something. So all that is not an insignificant amount of work. So we wouldn't just go there, oh, let's try to put a stop sign here or there. That's not how it works. And knowing that this intersection will be completely different if we go. So that's kind of the trade-offs we're making. Is it worth the time now? And are we really significantly changing it? Because we know it's not perfect right now. There's too much going on. And
we have gotten pushback when we have done some of these conversions. That people want the walks through the week. I mean, people's opinions vary. There's plenty of people that just walk across. There's also people that want the walk signal. But can we clarify, was the recommendation for the northern to be always stop, or for both, like the whole thing to be always stop?
I think it was for the, for like the northbound traffic in that, like the kind of slip lane.
So the
like
slip lane
like
more
next, yeah.
Is it so the one that's actuated? Like
one
you
we
only get the red light if someone pushes the button.
No, not in the slip lane, but at Warren, like where the Citizens Bank is on the corner.
It might.
There's a light. There's a stop
I
sign.
think it's only actuated. Yeah, there's a stop sign on the slip lane, correct? As you take a left from Somerville Ave onto.
Oh yeah.
And then there's a signal, but I think it only turns red if it's actuated by a pedestrian. Sorry, by someone pressing the button.
Okay.
I think so.
Yeah.
And because some of these are tied in with the main intersection, and that's where we got ourselves in a little trouble over the summer because there was a lot of equipment issues, and to fix that. So it's a delicate system, especially when you're dealing with equipment that's 40 plus years old. But I also think it's perfectly valid pushback.
Yeah, and there's just like one other thing I wanted to highlight was the request for a mid-block crossing at the Green Line exit on Prospect, which I think I understand that it would be very challenging to do. There's no like curb cut there, and so there's an accessibility issue. But that just is a place where I see so many people walking across through pretty heavy and dangerous traffic all the time, and it seems like having something there would be better to signal the drivers that they should be stopping, or just accommodate like the way people are actually crossing the street there already. And we did have that during construction, and I think there were some safety concerns about that, but at least it seemed better than what we have now, which is unfortunate. So I just wanted to highlight that one also.
Yeah, and I think it's a similar answer that it is not as easy as just putting one, as we saw during the temporary. I mean, it was put there, and then there was not adequate lighting. There's the coordination with the already complicated Somerville Prospect Washington intersection. It's very close to it, so it's not an ideal location anyway. And again, knowing that we're close to starting phase one, so how much do we want to do it? And
We received many complaints about the crosswalk when it was installed.
What was the timeline for phase one again?
So we're at this point we're aiming for starting the design, moving the 25% to 100% next year.
Just to comment on the mid-block crosswalk, I think it's part of the reason, like, as I also use that a lot and see a ton of people crossing it, just walking through the traffic, is because the crosswalks on either side are just like so long. Like the Webster Prospect like you're waiting for so long, and then the Somerville Ave cross. So it's like you're like, yeah, I could walk to the crosswalk, but you are waiting like 2-3 minutes either way you go. And so I think that just like encourages a lot of people to just cross if they see it.
And hopefully with the traffic signal changes, we can reduce that time a little bit. I'm sure that it's still going to feel long.
Webster Crossing is probably one of the other 120-second ones, I would say. And it's the same trade-off we often have between the concurrent and the all walk. And do we prioritize the people that are willing to wait longer for a safer crossing, or do we go with the way people actually seem to use intersections if it's not, even if they're conflicts?
I wanna get to Brian because I know you've been waiting, but just quick clarification, Viola. Can you remind me if a mid-block crossing is included in the designs for phase one? Yes. Okay, great. Brian, did
Which
you?
now, I wanna say, those drawings were the 25%, so a lot can happen and change. So don't, what you see on the 25% might not be what is there, but the intention is there. And the acknowledgement that there is like a decider line in that area.
Brian, did you still wanna jump in?
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. There for a moment I did, but Viola answered it fantastically. I don't need to reiterate.
Great. Thank you, Brian. Thank you for being here.
Oh, I should apologize. I totally had scheduled initially to actually join you all in person, and then today got away from me, and I just couldn't get down there. So my apologies.
It is totally fine. We welcome plenty of guests online. It is not worse than being in person. So thank you for being here where you could.
You're very welcome.
Did you have something, Preston?
Yeah, I was curious for the Somerville Ave Prospect Street. We had a question regarding the left turn bike box not being there, and the design factored using that large bike lane spaces as a box itself. I was wondering, and maybe I've just missed it, but is there any signage there right now to indicate that that's how bikes should use the space? Because it feels like you're just, the bike lane is just directing you to go that way if you're going straight. So if there's some sort of signage or a box that's behind that, line.
That's a good point. We could consider that. I don't think there's a sign. Yeah. And maybe
Because I
it's
think
even,
it
do you
makes
think it
sense.
would be enough just to do pavement marking?
I think so.
Yeah, okay.
So I think that flow makes sense. It just, to me, it wasn't intuitive.
Yeah.
I like, for comparison, in Inman Square, some of the turns will have like a little bit of green paint, say, hey, if you're gonna be going this way, sit right here.
Street and like, Cambridge, yeah.
Or even like, if you're going on Cambridge Street, you're trying to take a left onto Hampshire, it's like a tiny bit of green paint, it's just like, sit here for a little bit.
Right. Something in that zone to show the different
Yeah,
movements.
that makes total sense.
Thank you.
You're right, it's not intuitive. We were like, wait, how is this supposed to work? And then we were like, okay.
I think if you're going through there all the time, you probably would get used to that
Yeah.
pattern. But for the occasional rider,
And it's like we consider this like the safer thing to do, preferred to the box if it can be done. But that's the
I mean, we call those corners protected
right.
intersections.
Yeah.
And I think the original design might have had even more protection, but then we had to take it. Like we had to make some adjustments for larger vehicles.
yeah, I imagine the bus has to turn there too.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
It used to be, yeah. I
Yeah,
think this is
definitely, we
better.
changed that corner, but there still is enough space in it. Yeah, it should be easy to add that.
Does phase one intend to protect more of those corners?
Potentially, but yeah, those are the details. I mean,
The 25% design has like a full.
full protected.
I think so. Yeah. What corners are in phase one? I think is the question.
Yeah, I'm not like saying yay, because I also know that that would be a cost item, and this is a fairly new intersection. So I don't want to like raise hopes too much. It's like we will. The intention is yes.
Other questions or comments?
I guess one more tiny comment is there's another housing development going in between A and C. That's still probably in a case to kick off next year.
Is the what? Sorry.
There's one more housing development going on between labels A and C. The abandoned house is finally getting torn down.
I think that sort of C was lumped into both of them. There's two different developments in that block. Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate everybody who participated and planned the walk audit. Very much appreciate all of the city staff who worked to respond and think really thoughtfully about it. And, you know, I think there's some stuff that we can hope for in the short term, it sounds like, a limited number of things, which is great. And then it sounds like a lot of stuff was integrated for phase one. So I don't think this effort was all for nothing by any means. I don't want anybody to feel that way.
No, definitely not. I mean, when we say that we will integrate it into phase one, it is one of our first community feedback that we will look to. And as I said, I mean, it's amazing to have such a concise, it's a short-term recommendation, priority, and we will totally use it. Thank you.
I should also say that Kate and I are going to present at the Walk Massachusetts network call in December on the walk audit, but also just walk audits generally is like a community engagement tool, both for advocates as well as for cities. So I think in terms of like the walk audit as a method of like participation and, as Viola said, like kind of coming to a consensus as a community in an area, it was really powerful. Okay, we have about 11 minutes. We have to do officer election, sorry. That's our last agenda item. Okay, we nominated our current slate of officers, myself as chair, Vitor as vice chair, and Brenda as secretary, to serve for another year. Totoko did serve as digital communications officer, but has stepped down. Final call, is anybody interested in serving as
somebody.
Digital communication? Because if not, then I'm just gonna have to write the newsletter again.
It's gonna be more work for us.
And you guys know that I don't have any bandwidth. So I'm trying to guilt you, really, is what I'm saying. Going once. Okay, keep thinking about it.
New member requirement?
New member requirement. Someone must write the newsletter.
It's a very good question for us to ask about interviews.
Yes, actually, and that's a good point. We do have to convene at some point around what questions we want to ask. I have that on my to-do list. Anyhow, okay, so I motion to elect that slate that I just indicated, so all of the current officers minus Totoko with a currently vacant role as digital comms officer. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ted. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, beautiful. Then thank you so much, Vitor and Brenda, for agreeing to serve for another year, and you all are stuck with listening to me at all your committee meetings for another year. We have 9 more minutes. I'm happy to end early. I'm also happy to, I don't even know if we're allowed to do this, but like, if we wanted, we could circle back to the 90 discussion and just like see what folks are feeling after our conversation with Melissa. Would love to just kind of get a vibe check as she indicated. Are folks okay with that? Yes, Brenda, please.
Oh yeah, I was just again, like Cross Street just seems to be such a problem in terms of they keep talking about how narrow the street is and integrating the buses. Realistically, is there anything that can be done about the street to fix it from the city's perspective?
This is Justin. It's on the bike network plan for a one direction bike lane, and I think perhaps the bike lane edge is more consistent than parked cars. But I also think that is not the central issue for the T, given that the bus network redesign proposed running across street. And it was really the inability to use Tough Street that forced much of this change. So I'm not saying we shouldn't try to make it run faster across street. It's definitely rough. But I think the key issue is really the 380 people getting off and on Leachmere today. Many of whom, I mean, maybe going to their station, but also may not be transferring at all. I think that to me seems like the more important issue.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And we did we did clear corners, we put flex posts, we extended some of the bus stops, and then we can still keep doing that. And when we eventually do the quick build project, we will do all that again. The bus stops work better as well. They're still there.
Is it a particular portion of Cross Street or the whole link that they're concerned about?
It's most of it.
What?
It's most of it. It's just quite narrow. Yeah. It's like if you assume that parking lanes are 7 feet, they're 9.5 foot travel lanes. And a bus is 10.5 feet wide, but who cares? So the math is not mathing. But they make it work, but it's definitely very slow.
Any other feelings on our options? Yeah, Logan. Or I'm sorry, I have to let you unmute. Sorry. Please hold. Okay, you should be able to now.
Hi. This is Logan. I live basically on Highland Ave. I've very mixed feelings about changes to the 88. That's like currently my bus. I will be kind of upset to lose the connection at Leechmere, but like I do sort of understand how there are other options for that. And then on the flip side, like it'd be really nice to maybe have a better connection to Assembly or Sullivan. And then sort of as the third consideration, it's like, well, there might be a reason why there's this perception that the 88 is much more reliable than some of the other buses in this area, and changing the route might, it might hit some sort of issue that makes it a lot less reliable. So it's not sure how I feel about all the different aspects of it. So just reporting in as a someone who lives like basically right by City Hall.
Audio now unmuted. Mute my audio. Shift Command A.
Thank you, Logan. That's really helpful. And so I guess it sounds like for you, Gilman, like connecting to Gilman to get to Leechmere, or like walking down to Somerville Ave to connect to the 87. I mean, those are obviously worse options than what you currently have.
Yeah, they're worse, but for someone able-bodied, they're not that much worse. Sort of the real concern is if you have a hard time with the grade or the stairs to get on the Green Line at Gilman, or if you have a hard time with like the grade down to the 87, like your options are kind of Walnut, which is really steep, Vinyl, which is really steep, Putnam, School Street, all of those are super, super steep.
Yeah.
So there's, I think, people for whom the 88 is a much better option to Leechmere than the other two, but also like the fact that there even is 3 options is, a great thing.
Yeah. Okay. That's super helpful. Thank you, Logan.
Audio now unmuted. Mute my audio. Shift Command A. You are currently on a button.
Did you want to jump in at all?
Yeah, the redesign and the cancellation of the 88 to Leechmere is a big problem for many of us with disabilities, and that needs to be considered. And I don't think it was.
So you're saying that the connection from Highland to Leechmere for you on the bus is really important?
Yeah, it's crucial. I mean, and the other area that I think needs to be really examined very strongly is the 88 connection where you have to cross McGrath Highway when you come out of Twin Cities to try to get back to Highland Avenue. That is very dangerous.
Got it. Thank you, Jenny. That's also helpful.
Sure, those are just the 2 things I kind of wanted to point out.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's it's good to know and consider. Yeah, Ted.
Preston, do you? Yeah. I've been thinking more and more like, could it make sense to just stay with status quo until, and it's very far out, but until the McGrath redesign happens, and then push for some other new bus service down McGrath that maybe provide some of these connections.
Yeah, Ted?
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me as well. I think I'm just personally not very convinced by the replacement of Leachmere with Somerville as a Green Line connection, just because, I mean, maybe I think it's a minor concern compared to like accessibility stuff, but that is just a very frustrating place to transfer. I mean, the bus stop is very nice. It's great if you live in the neighborhood, but having to walk, I just imagine that Google Maps, it's like 1,500 feet from the bus stop all the way like up the ramp and then back into the middle platform. And I think it doesn't make you want to do it. Like you just go somewhere else. If you can, at least Mary's a very nice place to transfer, or there's also stuff there to go to. So it kind of, and the other factor is that now I guess there's no way to have the bus go directly to the Orange Line at Assembly. That's that on Grand Union, which is a couple blocks away. So I kind of am leaning more toward this keeping the Leachmere option than I have been before. These options.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with you at this point, Preston. It sounds like the only sense of urgency that the T has is like they don't want to keep operating on Cross Street, but they have been for many years already. So, like, just with McGrath construction and with the school situation, I feel like trying to force this change almost artificially is just not, I don't know, it just seems not to make sense. And I feel like losing the East Somerville connection, or I guess I should say losing the Cross Street Broadway routing seems to have a lot less of an impact if there are not a ton of families who are trying to get from Central West Somerville to East Somerville. I mean, obviously there's still the concern with like high schoolers, who I know you guys heard from a ton in this outreach. But maybe it's just a cost benefit analysis at that point around whether that makes sense as a priority. I don't know. Do others agree with that? Like maybe we should just advocate that we keep the status quo for a while until all this other stuff in the area is kind of calmed down.
So I was thinking mostly about like what should we ask if they decide to go this route? If they want to do whatever they want to do, they will have the right to do so, right, and receive the pushback. But we could do something that is say, okay, so if you want to do this through, say, Washington, what do we want in return? Because like there has to be some give and take, unless people would just get really mad. So on the consolidation part, we could say, you know what, turn this, invest more hours, put this as a high frequency route, and make everybody happy. Like do something else to get around the fact that you are damaging the situation for so many people. Or in case of for the busway at East Somerville, well, we have a super nice transfer point in Leachmere, so why don't we do something similar in East Somerville? It's a lot of money, but a lot of time. But maybe that's where we go, because they're not giving us options that are actually beneficial in any way. 21 that we have heard about.
Yes, Barbara.
I just wanted to add my support for status quo, at least in the short term.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. Yeah.
Have you guys engaged with the brick bottom plan? Because the neighborhood plan that was released earlier this year seemed to not mention a busway at all, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
Have you guys actually engaged with that planning process?
A little bit. I don't know if it's, well, okay. Well, there are conversations around, some sort of bus service in there. But yes, a little bit to your question. Okay, I don't want to keep us much over time. So I think what we should do is, I think we moved further in this discussion, which is great. I think what we'll do is maybe connect with the officers on mobility and propose a way forward on this. It sounds like we're really close to aligning on a recommendation, so that's great. Thank you for staying a little bit extra and for a great meeting otherwise. And thank you, or I guess have a wonderful holiday and rest of your November, and we'll see you in December. Thank you.
Night.